Okay, good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy Tuesday. For those that are joining us live, thanks so much. For those that are joining us on demand, thank you for doing that. We started talking yesterday about this idea of understanding what a vision really is supposed to be about. It's really important that we get this. And one of the things we're doing here, and I keep on repeating it, so sorry for hearing it again, but that's how it works. Repetition is how you learn. I told you guys a story about my friend who owned the baseball team, right? I think I told you the story about a friend of mine who owned a baseball team, and I spoke for him once, and thank God, Baruch Hashem, he was happy with it. And I asked him to speak to his players, and he's like, "For what?" I'm like, "To pump them up." It's like one of my bucket list items is to speak in a locker room. And he says, "My players don't need motivation. These are baseball players." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "You think a guy needs to be motivated to hit a fastball coming at him at 90 miles an hour?" I said, "So then what does it?" He's like, "It's called muscle memory, repetition, hearing things again and again and again and again and again." When you live in the world and life is just basically an intellectual exercise, you hear things once, I got it, you move on. But if you really want to change, you got to hear it again and again and again and again and again. In the study of Talmud, they have this concept called chazara, which means to go back. And the idea there is to just keep on going back and back and back and back and back. And one of the things that we keep on going back on is this concept of vision. This is critical for us. Because once we understand how vision works, we can now operate it differently. We can operate differently with that vision. Vision is designed to take us somewhere. Where we are, status quo, is reacting. You wake up in the morning, you're doing nothing. People are already coming at you. Wake up in the morning, they're coming at you. Emails are going. Facebook is moving. Instagram is posting. People want you. Everyone needs something. And if it's not someone from the outside, your body needs to eat. You get moved into this, into that. Your brain needs to be stimulated. If you wake up in the morning and you don't have clarity as to where you're going, you're just going to spend all day being busy. Yesterday I had a conversation with a great guy. He is an incoming CEO of a company. So we were talking about, sort of advice as to how to sort of, launch the company in a certain direction. I said, the first thing you have to understand is that if you don't have a clear vision for where you want the company to be in a year from now, you're going to spend the next year reacting. And you're going to be busy. And then all of a sudden, after you're being busy, you're going to wake up one morning and be like, where did I go? What did the company do? That's our lives. If we're not going somewhere deliberately, we're just reacting to life. And then we end up staying where we are. I don't know if you're feeling this, but I'm feeling this sometimes. There are many days during this period of time, many days, where I'm talking to my wife at the end of the day, and I'm like, why do I feel like I have not stopped for a second, but I'm not going? Like I thought I'd be so much further along in my life. When this whole virus thing started and everything shut down, my dreams of what I would have learned, what I would have delved into, the depth that I thought I was going to get. If you take out plane rides, holy cow! If you take away an airplane and a car and a train, I was like, forget it. My commute is like 5 steps, and all of a sudden, it just gets busier and busier and busier, and I wake up one morning, I'm like, wait. I thought in a month I would have studied these new things. I would have uncovered this thing. I would have wrote this thing. What's going on? And what's going on is that we're reacting. We're reacting. Depth is subtle. It takes time. And you're never going to do it because the things that are at the surface will always get in your way. Understand something. That urgent will always take precedence to important. That's how we're built. Remember, we're built to, I hope you can at this point say, survive. I wish we were in person. I hope one day we can do this in person. My prayer is that everyone who's with me, I hope that one day we can go like away for like a weekend and we can just continue this in person. We're built to survive. Greatness is the system override. And when we're built to survive, we always look at that which is urgent. We're always looking for urgency, because when you're in survival mode, you're always worried about things that could potentially risk that survival. And so what a vision is supposed to be doing is help you override the system, help you override the conversations that are going nowhere, help you override things that are urgent but not important so you don't deal with them. Urgency. This happened yesterday. My son pulled an ultimate me move. I tell you, some of my kids, they say that like the best, there's like a rule that like the way you treat your parents is the way your kids treat you. You know that whole rule? So like, you don't understand how you are until you raise your kids. So thank God, thank God I was blessed. I married a great woman. So she's got a lot of, all the good stuff in my kids all come from my wife. But, so I put my parents through a lot growing up. So, they're little pieces of me and my children. So one of my children came down yesterday at 9 o'clock at night and said, "Daddy, I got a project due tomorrow morning." I'm like, "Really?" And I can hear myself as I'm saying it. I can hear my parents going, "You waited until 9 o'clock at night?" But yeah, of course he did. As he's playing video games, walking in the office. And I'm like, I'm not saving you. Thank God you're a talented kid. Figure it out. He sits there in front of the computer. He has no idea what he's doing. Urgency. He's screaming, "I need help. I'm going to fail. I need help. I'm going to fail." And I'm like, "Take as long as you need it. Daddy's not saving you." And you know what happened? After like a half an hour, he figured it out. Because the urgency causes us to, I got to. We're screaming right away 100 times. Things that are deep, things that make us different people take time. It takes time to get underneath something. And whenever you're about to get deeper, all the urgency comes in your way. And we did this a little bit last week, building muscles of concentration, the gates. But unless we understand that it's our vision that's moving us to this direction, the vision will override. The only way to override urgency is through vision. Because otherwise, left to its own devices, urgent will always say, "I know you want to do this, but this is urgent." Unless you have a vision that says, if I do this now, it's urgent but not important. If it's urgent and important, go do it. But if it's urgent and not important, the only way you can really override that is when there's something bigger that overrides it, which is, I got to get there. There's an urgency in vision. See how that works? The only way you beat urgency is with urgency. But the reason why urgencies and things that are urgent but not important ends up overriding things that are important is because things that are important take time and they're subtle. And when things take time, anything urgent is going to get in the way of that unless you create the urgency. But not to do things that are unimportant. By setting a vision and seeing it and wanting to get to it, then your day has a certain level of urgency. If I want to get here in a year from now, then it's not just, it's going to take time. I want to be deep. But now what I've done is I've placed an urgency on the day to get me closer to my ultimate vision. And when you fight an urgent but important vision against an urgent but unimportant vision, that's how you start to override the system. That's the key. And when we start our days and understand that the vision is where I am walking to, we now have managed to create an urgency to something that's important. But here's where it gets a little deeper now. My vision really isn't what I do and what I want to have. My vision really is uncovering who I am. You see, when I live my life, and we just touched on this yesterday, and I want to delve into it right now. And this is why the urgency is so critical with the being. Each of us are here for a reason. We have things to do in this world. It doesn't have to be that the world knows it. That's the material world being the material world. I once saw a documentary years ago when the internet was first really exploding. Not in the beginning, but like when they had something called a YouTuber. There's a concept now called a YouTuber. What do you do for a living? You have a YouTube show. And a lot of people make an enormous amount of money. And they had a conference of YouTubers. I'll never forget this. They had a video, and there's this they're talking about how the influence on young people. And there's this young girl being interviewed, and in front of her walked a guy who had a YouTube show with like 20 million people. And as he's walking by, she loses it. She melts. She's screaming, ah! And the interviewer is like a little like, and then finally she calms down. And he goes, what do you want to do when you get older? She goes, I want to be a YouTuber. She goes, why? She goes, because I want to be famous. And the guy goes, for what? And I'll never forget that. She goes, doesn't matter. You don't want to do for a living. I want to be famous. The material world has a way of telling us that we're important when people know what we do. But that's not true. Not in the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, you're important when you're doing your thing that you're here for. When you're living your be. You have certain talents. You have certain things and challenges that are presented to you. You have certain things to overcome. For some, your expression is in the four corners of your home. For some, your expression is in an operating room. For some, your expression is in front of a canvas. In the eyes of God and true spirituality, there's no one that's more or less important. I'll never forget when we first got married. We moved into a community, and my wife was home. We had one child at the time, and my wife was home, and he was little, and it was Yom Kippur. I'll never forget this. And my wife's friend called her, and she said, what are you doing for Yom Kippur? She said, well, I'm going to be home. This is our first time I'm going to be home since I was, a little kid. I used to always go to shul. But my kid is home, and I feel like I want to be home with him. And the friend said, you're going to miss going to synagogue on Yom Kippur? What kind of Jew are you? So my wife says to me, she goes, what should I do? Should I hire someone? I feel like, no, listen, if you want to, you want to. But I feel like I want to be home. But like, am I doing the wrong thing? So I asked my rabbi. My rabbi said to me, what are you, crazy? Her being home with that kid and the challenges of trying to make it a Yom Kippur, doing what she had, and you sitting in shul, you think in God's eyes there's a difference? Are you joking? You think God is myopic? Do you think success is myopic? You think these are the 4 jobs that are important and those that aren't? You think because in school they tell you that like math is more important than art? You think math is actually more important than art in life? What? You think that just makes more money and that's a more important job than that? What do we measure people's importance by the salary that the world gives them? When did that happen? Your value is when you're living the life that you're meant to live, regardless of who knows. But we live in a world that's so confusing. We have so much neuroplasticity of what I should be and what I should be and what I should be. This is what my community thinks I should be. This is what I should be and I should be. This is what maybe I should. How do we uncover the true us? How do we uncover the things that I want to be? It's a lifelong process. You don't just roll in and find yourself. Don't just wake up one morning and like we found ourselves. I want to do this for the rest of my life. No, we set visions. Where do I want to be in a year from now? What do I want to be doing in a year from now? And the goal of those visions really is to start to uncover the things that I deep down should be doing. It's the process of uncovering the be. And the doing really is to get to the being, to get to the core of the talents that I have, to get to the core of the fights that I should be fighting, the good fights that I should be fighting. And the more we uncover that, the more we want that. It's an internal urgency. It's It's not an external urgency of like, look at this and look at that and buy this and you should be here already. How old are you? Well, you should be. What are you? Look at all of that. I'm ready. Do you know that I'm ready and I don't have? You know, I'm ready and I'm not. All of that is the material world urgency. But the spiritual world urgency is I can't wait to delve deeper into myself. I can't wait to live my real self. And it's complex. And even the things that I'm doing, I may not be doing it with a level of depth. I could be the mom of children. I could be the dad of children. And even though I'm a dad, I'm not really being the dad that I am. I'm not. I'm distracted. I'm stuck in things that are unimportant. But in my vision, I see even though I'm doing the work, I'm not uncovering a new job. I'm just recognizing the depth of where I can operate, the level of excellence, the standard in which I can operate. And so as a result, when I look out to what I want to do in the future, the vision is doing for me, it is uncovering the dad, the mom, the spouse, the Jew, the human that I am. That's the challenge of vision. I run a business, but I'm not really doing it right. I micromanage. I'm not good to my customers. I don't really care about the value. When I look into my vision, what it's uncovering is who I am as a person I want to be always giving more value than I'm taking. It starts to define when you look and you do it properly and you do it consistently, not every day, but you're doing it. It's uncovering the inside of you and all of its complexities. I had this great email from someone, and thank you for emailing me. She said, I'm a mom, and I'm doing all these different things, and I still feel like I'm empty. That's part of uncovering different aspects of you. We're going to talk. We don't have time today. Hopefully tomorrow. Remind me, Andy. We're going to start the day tomorrow on flow. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, the great researcher, flow. And how everything we're doing, we can do it better when we go all in on it. But I want to make sure we hit this. The two types of urgency in our lives. There's the urgency that they give us. That's largely distracting. It is. And I don't mean to but it is. It is. I see my kids sometimes, they're going out of their minds. I'm like, you got to do well in school, but it's fake urgency. It just is. I don't know how to say it back. It is. You gotta do well in school, but it's the urgency. The whole credits. It's just fake urgency. You gotta do well in school. You gotta do well. I got it. But the world feels like they can constantly dictate what I should be looking at and thinking about and doing, and it's going to drive us insane. And you get people that are at the end of their lives and look back, and a portion of their lives is really just keeping up with what the world wanted of them. And they didn't spend the time to understand what they deep down. When I mean they, I don't mean selfish. I mean the God that is within you, they. I mean the one that put you in this world, they. The subtle depth of spirituality, they. And they're covering who you are regardless of what the world says. And when you have that, you know what you have is not an urgency to get down the road. You have an urgency to become more you. You operate with a sense of purpose in your day. You're doing what you deep down know you should be doing in your day. That's urgency. That's real urgency. That's what we're supposed to be doing, is uncovering the be that is within us. And every year clarifying it. By the way, it doesn't take 5 minutes. It takes a lifetime. You don't just get this in one sitting. This is muscle memory. We're playing in the professionals now. This is life is the major leagues. And some people stumble upon this. Okay. Some people have it in their history. Okay. But we got to work on it. It's just like a loop. Seeing to doing to being, analyzing. Is that right? And seeing, and we loop it, and we get better at it, and get better at it, and get better at it, until one day we're waking up and we're really closing the gap of who I should be and what I am doing, who I should be and what I am doing, until one day that's who we are. the world, the noise starts to go down a drop. We're not thrown. I'll never forget, and I'll end with this. I'll never forget, I once went to a rabbi once, and I was like, he told me something, I was so like mad. I was like fighting him. Like, he didn't lose his cool for a second. He didn't lose his cool. After it was done, he's like, you know what the problem that you have is? He's like, you care about the answers. You already know what you want. He's like, that's not how you have to live it. You have to uncover what you want. You're already like worried, like what's going to be. Relax. You got to get to a depth. When you get to a depth, you're not thrown by the world as quickly. That's really the game we're in. The work we're doing every day with God's help is not more. It's deeper. It's work. It's work. It's chiseling. I don't remember I'll look for this tomorrow, but I'm sure Andy will show you. You know, Michelangelo. I'll look into this tomorrow. How long did it take? How long did it take to sculpt David? Sculpting, smoothing, sculpting, smoothing. It takes a while to polish the diamond that is within us. But we got to know at the end of the day, there's a diamond within us. And it's our job to bring it out. 3 years. Thank you, Andy. Of course. All right, everybody. Tomorrow, remind me, Andy. Tomorrow we're going to talk about flow. Have an awesome day. Make it a great day. Let's get inside us. Let's be deeper people today. Have an awesome day. And with God's help, I really can't wait to speak to you again tomorrow. Have a great day.